Chapter 98, A Clockwork Red. I was really just some mousy girl no one ever found interesting at first. They all mostly ignore me because everyone is looking for someone special to excite them. I was too plain looking, too flat, too boyish, and people didn't like how sad I looked all the time. How I had no personality nor humor, and I hated that. No one ever admires you for just being you. All the guys wanted some blonde bombshell of a woman with giant tits, and I'm just this nothing. They look at me like I was nothing. How dare you? Deeply, Nikki felt there was this quality she possessed that couldn't be described, a poison that was tasteless and odorless, yet very, very effective for what it could do. It's not a poison, don't call it that. I mean, it is a poison, but not the kind that would kill you. But what it did, only Nikki knew. And so did he. So did Michael. I know because I've sensed how he sensed it. Considering how much he then wanted to drink from it, and how he couldn't get enough. I don't know, it's hard for me to explain. Words just can't do it. Actually, if any word could, it would be magic. Yes, that, magic. That's the only word that describes it. It was something Nikki felt within her, knew was something that she possessed, and what she wanted most of all, was for everyone else to feel it too. My signature. It's what I have, that's invisible almost, but it's there, like a sense of one's onceness. And how it's tied to the fabrics of life and feelings. I feel things that can't be described because they don't want to be described. Forever changing, growing, yet staying the same, fully aware and fully present, everywhere, yet no one notices. I don't need looks, I don't need words, I don't need nothing really, nor humor, but what I have is much more. It's peace. I think it's God's gift to me, because no matter what insanity I've dealt with in my life, this invisible feeling completely fixes everything, almost magically. It's my signature, my ability to heal just by thinking. So as you can see, it's definitely not poison. Although inside Nikki, but all she ever wanted was for others to feel it too. Even with this godly gift, what pained Nikki the worst was all people cared then were stuff on the outside. How pretty she could look. This is something very deep inside me. No one sees no one. And that now had Nikki completely focused on superficiality. Since it was all people cared, all they ever cared. Well, I am that too. I am pretty, I am. On the outside. And back when I only knew and saw it, back during my ugly duckling years, I also wanted everyone else to see it too. I didn't want to be some voluptuous Hollywood bombshell to turn heads. And I hated the idea of how there were those that would have suggested one to go under the knife to improve things. It took Nikki years and years, all those teenage years to really get a sense of it and hone it in. But around the ends of her teenage years, it was then I learned how to show some of that magic to everyone around me. And it was then I was the one turning heads. But never was she able to show it completely. At least the side that I felt mattered, my signature, not just my sense of myself, my egotistical side. Nikki then looked at Michael and then wondered, do you know what I'm thinking? Do you? For a second there, it seemed like he did, but anyways. The question then was, did Nikki do it for all the right reasons? Eventually learning how to show some of that special side of hers to others, to get them to notice her. Did I? No. Something Nikki was all too aware of and pained by. No, I didn't do it for the right reason. I did it because I wanted all those men that would have not had any interest in me before do so now and cast down all the dipsy tramps they would have chosen before me, before seeing what I truly was and what I was truly made of. I did it for the petty reasons. And I couldn't deny how much I loved seeing the effect I then had on them, on everyone, when I learned to show that side of myself. And why? Because they owed me that. They owed me. For initially thinking less of me. They owed me that at least. Nikki then rolled her eyes, realizing how much bullshit she was feeding herself. Plain looking, too flat, boyish. Why am I kidding myself? I'm not ugly. And I never was. Not even really during my ugly duckling years. There truly is nothing more wretched than a beautiful woman still holding on to the bitterness she felt when she thought no one thought she was so beautiful. But I could never, and still can't, accept it. That I was beautiful. That I'm beautiful now, and it really isn't all that important. But I feel pretty much cursed to continue feeling this way for whatever reason until I don't know how long. I don't know. I think I've spent too much time thinking about superficial crap like this, obsessing over external beauty, way too much, and I feel stuck with it. I hate it now. I have to spend as much time as I do staring at myself in the mirror every day, making sure everything looks perfect, perfectly beautiful, and so beautiful that I start to feel like the ugliest, most wretched thing alive. I've squandered so much of me into petty things like these, so much of my magic, and for what? As a lady, Nikki had come to the position where she felt like what she needed was absolute control. Absolute control, so nothing was squandered, everything was saved, and nothing would fall into chaos. I am my father's daughter. If my father had any magic for himself that made him so special, it was his ability in trying to control his own fears and dealing with the world and everybody. And my father's magic were in his lies. In Uptown, everyone was a tool, an apparatus, and a gear in the giant clockwork of things. They all needed to have their function, their purpose to exist, and Nikki felt like her function and purpose was to become the clock's centerpiece, the piece to drive them all. I feel like I'm completely and utterly lost if I don't have control over everything. Everything and everyone scares me. I mean, I'm serious. I'm unable to see them as humans like I see myself. I feel sometimes like I'm the only one left in a world surrounded by aliens with lizard faces underneath their masks. Kind of like that miniseries I saw on TV about alien visiting Earth, lizard people with split tongues eating live hamsters and pretending to be human beings, with a sense of compassion and pity for one another, but really are definitely not and are out to reap the world blind of all its natural resources. They're all aliens or something. Their skin isn't warm and smooth underneath. It's cold and covered with scales. They're all evil and vain and despicable. And I can't help but to feel like their eyes are always on me, watching, judging, hating, and conspiring all the time. I need control. I need it so I don't have to feel that way all the damn time. She wanted to hold sway of all the other gears, to hold the tempo, the rhythm, and the flow. That was just her nature. Nikki became the lady of the night by way of her sex appeal and her manipulative ways, being her bread and butter, the best weapon she had against all the power-hungry Armani lizards or their inch-and-a-half lizard members. Even that part of them are cold and covered with scales, all massing up to try and stick it to her every chance they got. I've never met so many dickless and spineless, unapologetic sore losers in my entire life. Of course, Nikki, referring to the Yuppie she had to deal with, the Gordon Geckos. Especially that one rich, slimy asshole that likes to put his name on every building he's got. I hate him. Unlike the blue-collar assholes me and Michael had to put up with back in the day, these lizard people... Oh, I gotta stop thinking like that. Lizard people? That's how crazy people think. Nikki paused, forcing the idea of them out of her head, and continued. They're all spoiled and feel entitled of everything. Assholes at Stumpy's place that I dealt with Michael back when I was, well, slumming it. There's no better word for it. Fine, slumming it. Back when I was doing that, dealing with them, as much of a bunch of macho, chauvinistic assholes Michael's type were, they had at least been through the sort of hardships that can make a person understand why they were the way they were. And really, for that, they deserved better. However, as for the crowd of people I dealt with and grew up around and had to spend my entire life dealing with, what hardship did my uptowners sort go through to expect the world to be served to them on a silver platter? For them, everything was about winning at all cost. Everything about a man has to deal with his penis. And these men, since theirs was so little, everything for them was having someone or something stroke their inch-and-a-half egos to make them feel better. But then Nikki thought of Michael in this context and then thought, it's different with him. I mean, I know how he is and how he likes to think with his little brain down there too. And more than actually most men But he's different. None of them wanted to make love to me. They just wanted to fuck me. And that's the difference. And after a moment of reflecting over that, Nikki accepted it. For a second there, she was once again questioning Michael, and I don't want to do that right now. But as for the uptowners, they have no humility, no common courtesy, no nothing. And how many times did I have to tell them no, no, no? Especially for the sick things they ask for, when they become so bored while feeling so entitled about themselves that they turn evil and start reaching for perversion, something Michael never ever did. No, I'm not going to defecate on your chest and give you a golden shower. No, I'm not going to seduce your cheating wife, drug her to the point of being comatose, and have one of those panthers rape her in front of you and your cheering buddies in 1999. And no, I'm not going to take your 8-year-old son and daughter and, I don't even want to think about what that sick piece of shit requested next. Nikki now needed a moment to forget. All those sexual advances by heartless, passionless, embittered men, and they take it as a personal insult just because I wasn't interested in blowing every last one of their egos up, since that was their entire goal in life, someone to give them fellatio to their egos 24/7, since they couldn't stand how little they were. And really, the sad part, Nikki felt, was I couldn't even feel sorry for them in the end when I realized they were so sick that there had to be some sort of mental illness involved. Honestly, I can understand them. Well, not the slimy perverts and freaks, but the ones that came looking for pity. I understand that these types of men have completely built up their entire sense of self-worth entirely on their abilities and being successful with money and with women. And they need that sense of achievement to gain a sense of self-worth for themselves, that they matter. Over time, I came to understand the psychology behind it. And since Nikki did understand them, I was part of their world too. And I have, just like them, ended up basing my entire sense of self-worth on my own abilities and being successful. So I'm just as broken. And since Nikki did understand, seeing them the way they were, it all just ended up making her pity them more. No matter how ugly things got. I felt sorry for them, which ended up leading me to, I feel sick. Sick was something venereal, considering, when you're a degenerate whore. No, don't say it like that. Don't. You can excuse yourself time and time again over the things you do, but what? Excuses don't get rid of the feeling you're left with after defiling yourself. Like a taste in your mouth, you just want to spit out, but you can't anymore. Since that taste is no longer just coming from someone else, but you. It's all you. Fine. It's that. It is just that. Something women today need to get through their heads. What self-worth can a woman derive when all she does is treat her face like a urinal? Nikki started to feel nauseated and didn't want to delve anymore into that nastiness of it all. What was I thinking? But in the end, things got ugly. Very, very ugly. And I couldn't pity them anymore because of how spiteful and ungrateful, conniving, and vengeful they eventually all became. And then later on, giving me death threats when I couldn't do it anymore. And I cut them all loose. I can't believe all that I allowed myself to play part in. I feel sick and dirty now. Because becoming the lady was everything everyone wanted for her to be and despised her for when she became it. When you're cold-blooded and heartless, you can never be the type of person to genuinely captivate people and draw them to your ways. When it comes to business, that's an asset that can take you to the top. Earlier in my career, people saw how I was able to grab everyone's attention, and for that they decided to use me for their own gains. All of a sudden, I was being called in to do business deals and such for them. I could be their representative, and I was very good at it. They didn't just think I was some nice tail they could be chasing. They saw how intelligent I was. When you're those two and also charming, which very few people are considering how hard it is to develop charm, you can make people say and do anything. Having a nice pair of tits will just make a man horny. Seeing that you're intelligent will force them to think and reconsider who they're dealing with, which can also be a bad thing if they're threatened by you for being too intelligent. But when you also have charm, only then can you win them over completely. But then again, in the end, when she reached Centerpiece, only then did she discover just how much of a slave she had become to the clock itself. As she felt all the other gears trying to mesh and conflict with her own sway, tempo, rhythm, and flow. At the end, she had thousands and thousands of gears aligned with her, all trying to control the centerpiece at the same time. But then again, you can never really win over cold-hearted types completely. You could only do it with the ones that have a heart, and... Nikki then looked at Michael again and began to feel depressed. In the end, they're jealous of what you have because they want that power too. They want that triple package because it's all about them and their conquests. In the end, I was just a tool for them, a tool they all wanted to control. When once her sex appeal and manipulative ways got her places, taking her to the top, later on they began dragging her along and forcing her down to the bottom. I failed so miserably. And in the end, I still ended up needing a man to come along and save the day from the mess shit. And now Nikki felt pissed, stirred, and raged as she looked at her white knight in shining armor and felt like her mother's daughter. I always have everything perfectly planned out. Everything. But then all it took was this idiot to come by. Someone that wasn't even able to plan ahead, even if it cost him his life, and yet... he did what a man does and fixed everything, all the mess site. And now Nikki felt like almost lashing at him. Fuck you, Michael. Fuck you, Michael. Seriously. But then realized, oh shit, fuck me. Much of the rage she now felt wasn't being churned by bitterness. Ah shit. I'm horny now. But by passion and lust. Oh no. Don't get that way now. Not now. Don't go into heat. You... like some stupid mutt over... And then looking at Michael again. Oh, she practically did in her mind. Okay, enough thinking about it. And after a while, she did. Then there was Madboy, Anthony. You know, I feel nothing for him. The fact that Michael killed him, still nothing at all. But there was a reason for that. I've really spent longer time getting to know Anthony than I have getting to know Michael, funny enough. Yet I feel nothing for him and the fact that he's dead. I thought for a second when Michael pushed him out of a window that it had to do with the fact that I'm just that much of a horrible person not to care, but that wasn't the reason. I remember this one time in the limo. Anthony was drunk, feeling very petty and self-pity, and because that's just who he was. I tried to talk to him, as I had before many times, get him to stop pitying himself so much. Not a small feat, considering he had just about turned wallowing in self-pitying into a favorite pastime of his, an Olympic fucking sport. But I tried to talk to him, ease him, I tried to help him, but he rejected me. And then the mood in Anthony changed, as he tried to get closer to her and show her how she could possibly make him feel better. I hate him. I had been refusing him for years and years since I chose to absolutely refuse to allow him to get to me, just to get to Michael. I absolutely refused to play that middleman or whatever. Yet here he was again, And when I refused to blow him again, what did I get for it? And for my troubles to try and comfort him. Anthony had then gone completely berserk on Nikki. He then completely surprised me and attacked me. He broke my nose, broke my arm, broke 2 ribs, cracked one of my front teeth, then bashed me over the head with a champagne bottle and broke the bottle, cutting me over my left eye. And might have tried to kill me, that is, if the limo driver hadn't stopped and tried to get to the back seat to stop him. Nikki had then stepped out of the limo and decided to walk to the hospital. She was so out of it, she needed to get away from all that, and had decided to walk there. Of course, I was wearing a white power dress covered in red blood in broad daylight on a Wednesday afternoon on 34th and Madison, so everyone saw me, half conscious, stumbling my way with a broken heel to the hospital, and I had an ambulance arrive to pick me up before I even got halfway there. Now, it wasn't like this was the first time Nikki had been straight up attacked by men in her line of profession. Yeah, I think about the 5th time. I got used to it. But seeing now Anthony being one of her assailants really started to bother her. Even though our relationship, me and Anthony's, was always weird and complicated, this was something I wasn't expecting. I had known Anthony for years and years, and here I was again, getting attacked by another man who just couldn't stand how little and pathetic he really was. Of course, a few days later, Anthony had then begged her to take him back. Begged her since Anthony knew he needed her. He was just some punk kid with a GED before Nikki had helped him to the big leagues. Without her, he would go back to being nothing again. Yeah, I took him back. I still felt like I could trust him more than all the other I really need to stop thinking about that. Considering still the type of men Nikki was dealing with, making negotiations with, Anthony was still the closest thing to a trustworthy man Nikki had in Uptown. Just goes to show just what type of men I've had to deal with. Why is it like this, though? Why has it been this way since my father, and besides Michael, why has this been the only type of men I've been coming across as this lady? Death threats? Vicious attacks? What type of world have I got myself into? But the thing was, Nikki chose this. Nikki had chosen this, knowing, because she saw the challenge in it. And there was just something very, very dark inside her that had her finding all this exciting. I guess I just enjoyed the power rush I got from being able to control so many men at once, that I accepted what would happen then, at any cost. And I failed so miserably, because I did it all for the wrong reasons. I'm a responsible person. I can take care of myself, but I needed more and more to get a sense of that, just so I could stick it to all the men around me that I could do what they could do, and 10 times better. And doing that, I vilified most of them in the process. Oh, did I fail miserably in the end, wanting to play their game and beat them in their own game, even when their game was just so heartless and evil and corrupt. But the fucked up part was, Nikki liked it that way. She had learned to like it, and liked seeing how dark and dangerous things got, even if it meant she was going to get attacked now and then. That, and possibly murdered or raped. What do you mean, possibly raped? I've been raped. Those cases weren't just men. I decided to lie to myself, believing it was consented by me. I didn't consent to it. They fucking raped me and left me bruised and bleeding. There's no refuting it. I'd counted 10 times already. Actually, the figures were now somewhere around 23 times. What? 23 times? I've been raped that many? I'm crazy. And not just that, but sick. And that's all there is to that.